It's time to pull up a chair and have coffee with Kim. Coffee with Kim is sponsored by Boyer Territory, a real estate company in Hillsboro, Ohio. And now, Kim Boyer.
Good morning, this is Kim Boyer, and today we're talking about trust. And how do you trust? How do you trust God? What does that mean? Trust means to believe in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of God. To believe, to use your faith. And we've talked about this before. We've mentioned it in Hebrews chapter 11 as the faith chapter. And in the Message translation, I'm starting to really like that translation. It uses modern English, but I always will follow it up with some King James because that's what's near and dear to my heart and easy to recognize. So Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6 in the Message Bible says, "It's impossible to please God apart from faith." And why? Because anyone who wants to approach God must believe both that He exists and that He cares enough to respond to those who seek Him. And the King James says He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. And then in verse 7 it says, "By faith Noah built a ship in the middle of dry land. He was warned about something that he couldn't see. He acted on what he was told. The result was his family was saved. His act of faith drew a sharp line between the evil of the unbelieving world and the rightness of the believing world. As a result, Noah became intimate with God. He was close to Him. He trusted Him. He believed Him. He obeyed Him. And then he was intimate with Him." That seems kind of backwards to me. Wouldn't you think you would get close to God first and then you would trust Him and obey Him? Nope. God's ways are higher than our ways. He wants you to trust Him. He wants you to believe that He is and that He'll reward you if you seek Him. It's already set out there in front of us. We're just meant to step into it. So have you trusted Him? You can do it at any time. Start at any time. It's never too late. So trust Him, believe Him, and then obey Him. And over in Proverbs chapter 3 in the Message Bible, verse 5 says, "Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure everything on your own. Don't try to figure out everything on your own." And the King James says, "Lean not on your own understanding." Verse 6 says, "Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track." And the King James says, "or make your paths straight." Verse 7, "Don't assume that you know it all. Run to God and run from evil." And that's what we think. That's the definition of crazy, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And verse 8 says, "Your body will glow with health and your bones will vibrate with life." And that's something that we've looked over and over and over. So if we want better health, usually we're looking at diet and exercise, a visit to the doctor. And not that you can't do those things, but you've got the Word of God free to read on every platform. You can listen to it, you can read it, you can, listen to a podcast, listen to YouTube, listen to me. But it's out there for you and it can improve your health, so why wouldn't you do it? So let's get back to Noah. He built an ark or a ship. It had never rained on the earth before. Now just think about his environment. Only dew had come up on the ground, no rain. So God says, "Hey Noah, there's too much evil on the earth. I'm going to wipe out everything and start over. You're the only person listening to me, so I'm going to save you and your family." So I wonder what Noah's first thoughts were when God said that. The Bible doesn't really expound on what Noah thought or what people around him were saying or even his family. But he talked them into it because they went on the ark with him. So way before God spoke to Noah, if you read in the scriptures, it says, "My spirit won't always strive with man, and his days shall be 120 years. And this is something that's always sparked my interest because it says, now originally we weren't supposed to die. We were created in God's image. We were in the Garden of Eden. We were just supposed to commune with God forever. So then, people were supposed to live for hundreds of years, forever. They're supposed to live forever. But I was told most of my life that we're promised about 75 years. So I looked that up. And if you look in Psalm 90 and 10, Moses is talking, and this is when the children of Israel were in the wilderness or in the desert. And he said, our years are 70 or 80 at the most. But this was under the curse. But the children of Israel were living in the wilderness at the time. Moses himself lived to be 120 years old. But that was kind of the exception to the rule. Everybody else lived between 70 and 80. But back in the beginning of Genesis chapter 6, which is where you'll find the story of Noah, God said our lives would be 120 years. And most people think he was talking about our lifespan. And some translations even say that. However, many Bible scholars have found from the time that the Lord spoke that it was actually 120 years until the flood destroyed everything on the earth. So was he talking about our lifespan, or was he talking about human life on the earth? Well, then, Noah lived to be 950 years old. So it makes you think maybe he was just talking about there's only 120 years left. So this is the part that goes back to trusting and believing. So for years we were taught our lifespan was 75, and we believed that, and science supported it, and it happened a lot. Lots of people live to be around that age, but there's always exceptions to the rule, high and low. Since I received grace, a lot of that teaching that surrounded that, and a lot of the preachers I was listening to talked about the 120-year lifespan. And I found a lot more people believing that, and it's found in Genesis 6, like I said. Now, science is starting to support that as well, and people are living longer. And if you listen to anything in the scientific world, they just talk about, we're living healthier, we're watching what we eat, we're exercising more, discoveries have been made. Well, what about the people before that lived to be between like 600 and 900 years old, like Noah did? Me personally, I just think that was like the span between the Garden of Eden and living forever, and then into the fall, and then it dwindled, and people were relying on their own understanding and not trusting God. And maybe that's why Noah lived so long. He trusted God. He obeyed. God protected him. Now, it's not that he doesn't care about all of us. He's talking to us and giving us direction, but are we listening? Are we trusting? It's just me, I wonder. If God told anyone to build an ark and they didn't, why wouldn't they? Didn't they trust God or believe God? I've wondered about that. Was Noah the only person that God mentioned this to? I really find that hard to believe. The Bible doesn't say. But lots of times when you get an idea, God's given that same idea to some other people. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I had the thought, if you're standing on the sidewalk and you hear the Lord say, don't step out in traffic, you're going to get hit. So you don't, and you don't get hit. But the guy standing next to you, the Lord says, don't step out in traffic or you're going to get hit. And he doesn't listen. Guess what? He got hit. It's not that the Lord didn't love them equally, just one was listening and one wasn't listening. So, how much are you trusting? But I've thought a lot about Noah this week and imagining how he felt. And maybe he felt stupid or crazy for having faith and believing. People probably made fun of him. Bible scholars think that it took somewhere between 55 and 75 years to build that ark. He held his faith all those years and trusted God. There were probably days where he felt crazy. Sometimes that's what having faith, believing and trusting God feels like. Like you're crazy. Like you see nothing changing around you, nothing's happening. It's not raining yet, Noah. How long are you going to believe that? I wonder if his family responded to this. How did they respond? Did he speak to them about it? I'm sure he did. Did God speak to Noah's family about it? Hey, he's not crazy. I'm telling him to do this. Hang in there with him. You're going to be glad. So what are you believing God for today? Can you have crazy faith? Can you believe like Noah? Can you believe God over your circumstances? Can you keep your eyes on God and not on the things going on around you? It's hard to do, but it's worth it. He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Trust him, believe him. Keep on trusting and believing. Keep on taking that on, that trusting. I was thinking about how old that Noah lived to be and how long it took him to build the ark. I did a little math, and if it's wrong, forgive me, but it just gives me a little better perception of like our lifetime. So he was 950, but he believed for 55 years or more. I mean, they don't know exactly, but then he also had to get supplies and food for himself and his family and all those animals, and that took a lot of faith too. So I squared it down to, it would be kind of like if we lived to be 95 and God asked us to build an ark, it would equate to about 5.5 years of our life. So what are you believing God for, and what is he asking you to trust him with? And could you do it for 5.5 years or less? I mean, if you live to be 80, it would be less. If you live to be 70, it would be less. I'm 50. What have I believed God for, and how long can I believe him before I give up? That's the key. I'm sure he didn't say to Noah, though, can you trust me for 55 years? He just said, can you trust me today? My grace is sufficient for today. So God's grace is sufficient for you today. And we're going to follow up with a little song by Lauren Daigle, and it's a new take on that Trust in You song. But I want you to listen to the words. It says, she talks about, what if you don't move this mountain that I want you to move, or that you don't part the waters that I want to walk through? I'm encouraging you today to keep trusting that he will, because he's never lost a battle. He can't lie. He has our best interest at heart. He sent his only son to die for us so that we could have anything that we need or want. But we have to trust him. So trust him today, and let Lauren take us out.
Letting go of every single dream, I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment of my wandering never changes. What do you see? I've tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest, oh, almighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you, yeah. Truth is, you know what tomorrow brings, yeah. There's not the day ahead you have not seen, no. So in all things be my life and breath. I want what you want, Lord, and nothing less. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. Oh, I will trust in you, yes. You are my strength and comfort. You are my steady hand. You are my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Your ways are always higher. Your plans are always good. There's not a place where I'll go you've not already stood. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you, yeah. I will trust, I will trust, oh, I will trust in you. I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you,
You've been listening to Coffee with Kim. If you have comments or thoughts on today's topic, you may email us at coffeewithkim@hotmail.com or write us at P.O. Box 996, Hillsboro, Ohio 45133. Be sure to visit Boyer Territory, a real estate company, at www.boyerterritory.com. Join us again next Sunday at this time for Coffee with Kim.